Hi, I'm here with Andrew Eppich. He's the lead exec for Equinix here in Canada. Really interesting market. We're in Toronto today at DCD.
Great.
Andrew, I wanted to start off the conversation kind of light, soft, and get your ideas of the edge. Everywhere at every event around the world for the last 6 months, and it's going to go on next year, everyone is talking about the edge. And I know that that's important to Equinix.
Sure.
But what are the troubles with the edge? Why is this a big topic?
Yeah, and I think the solution is actually an architecture that makes workloads available at the edge. So our perspective, having 146 of these data centers around the world, is that ultimately location matters. So data is created and monetized often through wireless devices at its source. So there's two kind of irrefutable truths right now in the market. One is data is increasing exponentially, and light can only travel so fast. So the idea of having a central head office location that has information that's traveling all the way from where its source is, getting kind of evaluated and prioritized and then sent back in the form of insights to that same market, ultimately fails because there's just too much data to handle, and light only travels so fast to allow those packets to get kind of back and forth between those zones. So what Equinix has understood through working with about 600 customers that are within those data centers around the world is that it's much better for them to basically have their smarts or their data, as well as the performance that's required in that region at the edge in a distributed model. So from our perspective, being at the edge is one of the cornerstones of what we call IOA, which is a new kind of architecture that we're trying to shepherd into the market from a discussion point of view.
Okay, we'll talk about that in a sec. It's interesting because the heritage for many years at Equinix was where you started off with the internet exchanges, but then as a financial powerhouse for the services, and that was an edge, and the edge was near the stock exchanges and things like that. So I guess with IOA, you're just now increasing.
Yeah, we're accelerating that thought process. So the reason why networks came to Equinix originally was that they needed a peering point to basically allow for exchange of their packets of data. So in 1998, when we were kind of born as a company, we were resolving the problem of scaling the internet. Because these intersection points became so important through collaboration with carriers in Europe as well as Asia, we became basically the intersection point for the internet. The reason why the financial services industry piled on is because they measure their success in microseconds rather than milliseconds when they're trying to arbitrage different markets. So the idea of being able to shorten the distance between two traders, or the exchange where those trades happen and the banks that then fulfill that order, having that proximity truly mattered. And to be at a place where you were highly reliable but also network neutral, giving you the capacity to use multiple vendors in that region, really was what kind of, I guess, increased the interest of that particular vertical. So when the financial services vertical kind of continued to expand, what we saw that was transferable, and some of the same things that they were interested in was absolutely transferable to the enterprises. So now we're seeing whether it's insurance companies or engineering firms that also have a very strict time requirement, need a quick turnaround time, need to change that kind of data into valuable information. The opportunity to have that flowing long distances just doesn't work. So basically pick a center where that information becomes of value, but keep it out at that edge so you don't have to traverse these long networks in order to accommodate it. So it's as much an evolution as it is kind of a particular vertical revealing itself to Equinix. I mean, we satisfied a requirement for the networks, we satisfied a requirement for the financial services industry, and this becomes kind of the next chapter, is that the enterprises are starting to understand what those subsequent verticals had kind of figured out over the last decade with us.
Okay, so I'm going to ask something. So for the people that are listening, I'm going to look for the elevator pitch for IOA.
All right.
Just,
boom,
bundle it
try
together.
and condense it down. So basically what it affords us is kind of three layers. So what we call the performance, or basically the network layer, the ecosystem, or basically the middle layer that allows you to connect to either directly or virtually different cloud providers perhaps, or different people within your industry. And then the third layer is basically the data hub. That is where information that is critical to your organization and it is unique to your organization and needs to be secure but adjacent to those other two kind of levels of the pillars basically makes up what we call an IOA node. And these IOA nodes could sit in multiple locations around the world. So it's IOA, the interconnected-oriented architecture, kind of has its heritage through, to use software vernacular, the software-oriented architecture involved into the service-oriented architecture. And from our lens, there's enough organization that understand kind of this distance of light traveling as well as exponential data that they have to now rethink those intersection points. Ergo the interconnection-oriented architecture. So it's not a replacement of, rather kind of an evolution of where we've seen application architecture kind of evolve from.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and I'm sorry it's not that short of an answer, but
hey.
Some complicated things never are.
Yeah, I know. You did a 40-minute presentation today, and it was complete.
Yeah.
You know, people were listening all the way through.
Great,
so
no, I appreciate
it's
it.
It's complex.
Yeah, no doubt.
It's
no
not
doubt.
an easy answer.
No doubt.
So we're sat here in Toronto.
Yep.
Last year, you
Sure.
opened up a next tranche of a facility, very big facility. I think we spent $100 million
We did
it.
Indeed, yeah.
What's going on in the Toronto market?
Sure.
Why is this exciting? Because it is, right? I've
Absolutely,
heard
yes.
Fourth largest metro area of the Americas.
Correct.
Of North America.
Correct,
sorry.
yeah. By population, yep.
By population,
Yep.
and it's exciting.
Absolutely.
Why? What's so hot?
Yeah, I think it becomes just learning what we have in other regions and then realizing that Canada, being the 10th largest economy in the world, or the 4th largest city in North America, allows it as just kind of an absolutely, we should invest the $100 million that we did to arrive in Toronto. The business case, if you were, was predicated on the fact that those financial verticals would enjoy that same kind of secure, reliable, very fast connection to each other through the financial exchanges. So since we presented in March of last year, kind of the launch of TR2, this facility in Toronto, we're happy to report that now we have 3 of the largest exchanges in Canada, being NASDAQ, Omega, and Canadian Securities Exchange, that make up about 30 to 35% of all of the equities traded in Canada, now reside within TR2 and are trading and making these kind of microsecond transactions every day. So the evolution becomes one of, Toronto was kind of the 140th or 141st of a much larger global fabric, but for Toronto, a significant investment in order to take care of, again, those workloads that are important to that particular region and need to be done fast, as well as in a significant capacity of data way. And we're talking on a daily basis. I mean, to borrow from our friends in New York, $1 trillion per day transacts through Equinix data centers. And if we're the 10th largest economy in the world, you can imagine the types of numbers that we'll see being transacted in TR2 in a very short period of time. So absolutely worth the investment and absolutely an exciting place to kind of meet with DatacenterDynamics on an ongoing basis to kind of check back in as to our evolution in Toronto, because it's a good story around the world, but it's fun to be kind of on the front end of it in Toronto and in a Canadian context.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot, Andrew. Thanks for that insight.
Cheers.